Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sue on Chat to Sue, a channel where we talk about things that we really need to talk about as parents, with our families, our children, our parents as well, and a family as a whole. Um, today's topic is a bit heavy. That's why I've put a disclaimer at the beginning. So if you get triggered in any way, please seek help, psychological help with a therapist or social worker. Um, yeah, uh, yeah, it's a bit heavy. So, why do other people become abusers? Um, when you grow up in a home that is very turbulent, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, and you've been put down. You've been told you're stupid. Why aren't you like your brother? Or the child next door is doing well. That particular person grew up with shame, right? And if that is not fixed, if there's no validation going forward, they grow up to be abusers because of that shame they feeling within them. And also the balance of you validate your child and you discipline your child. That needs to be balanced, right? You can't be overindulging your child, and there's no discipline. You overindulging them by telling them how great they are, and when they do something wrong, you do not discipline that. You don't discipline them, right? So discipline and validation goes hand in hand, right? And also, you need to also give your child time. If a child grow up being ignored, they grow up to be abusers because they don't know time. They don't know how to give others time, right? They grow up, to put it in blatant truth, they grow up selfish, right? Everything is about them, and they don't see a broader holistic world or a holistic person. If they get into a relationship, they become very abusive and controlling because of this shame they feeling, and there's no validation that they were getting. So they end up with those feelings of selfishness. But I've got Tim Fletcher, who is a therapist, who will take us through the channels of how people become abusers. Let's hear what he says.
Why is it that some people become abusive? And it's an important question to ask, and there's two very critical pieces in answering that. So, number one is that everybody who's an abuser has a lot of shame. That is almost a given in my mind. So, what happens with shame, which comes out of complex trauma, is when mom or dad abuse me or neglect me or abandon me, the child concludes it's my fault. It's because I'm not good enough. I must be a bad person. So your whole sense of identity is shaped to be a negative. What happens with people with that is nobody likes to live just walking around hating themselves and feeling that. And so people compensate or respond to shame in a variety of different ways. But what happens for people with lots of shame is they can compensate by going to, I'm better than everybody. And then what happens with that is they go, my needs are more important than everybody else's as well. So you get the formation of a narcissist. And then there's a fear that they don't want to acknowledge, that they deny, and that is deep down, they still believe that you wouldn't want to stay with me if I gave you a choice. That you would probably find somebody better than me, so the only way you're going to stay with me is if I control you. So you can see right in there, you have an abuse element developing. Because if you rebel against my control, then I'm going to have to use abuse to try to regain control. And the other piece with shame is shame, though people might not be aware of it or acknowledge it, shame has a huge anger component. You're angry at yourself, you're angry at the world, you're angry at life, and you lash out at people who are the closest to you. So that becomes the formation of an abuser. A lot of shame. But you have to look at the flip side, and that is, why do certain people stay with abusers or get attracted to abusers? And the answer is, they have the same shame. And deep down, they respond in a different way, and they go, nobody would ever love me a lot for who I am, so I have to become content with getting a few crumbs of love once in a while. That's probably the best that I can do. So if I'm in a relationship where I'm abused, but I get love once in a while, I'll just have to put up with that and accept that, because that's the best I'm going to get. So you get the two sides of shame that get attracted to each other and end up in a relationship, and both are necessary to keep the relationship going. Do you realize if the person who takes the abuse and says, I'm content with a few crumbs, they could have left many, many times, but they stay there. I work with addicts every day, and the question I often want them to consider is, if you look inside of yourself, you are a whole bunch of desires and hormones and chemicals and needs. And those needs and desires and drives are all in competition with each other. So you got a desire for sleep, for food, for sex, for relationships, for position, for power, all in competition, okay? In a healthy person, there's one drive, one need that trumps everything else, and that is love. So I will have a sex drive, but never to the point where it violates love. Love will trump that. What happens in an abuser is things begin to trump love. And as soon as something begins to trump love, you can become an abuser. And so we all have the potential to be abusive, because we all struggle every day with competing desires. And sometimes they do trump love. We get selfish. An abuser is the things that consistently trump love are there all the time. And so that becomes the main part of their life. Love still pokes out once in a while, but other forces are the more powerful forces in their life. So let me give you a couple examples. So if a person has this sex drive, it can become a lust thing. If it trumps love, guess what you have? I want my sex drive gratified. I don't care if I hurt you. That is where the sex drive has trumped love. And so then sex then becomes abusive. It becomes using of other people. Second one, greed. We all have this desire. I want money. I want position. And so what happens if your desire for money trumps love? I will steal from you. But if it's healthy, love will always win out over my desire for money, so that I will never violate you in order to get money. I won't use you or steal from you. Same as lust for power. Think of image. If you grew up in a home where image was more important than anything else, when you went out in public, you knew that mom and dad weren't really loving you. That was all fake. But you had to keep an image, and if you didn't maintain the image while you were out there in public, you got it when you got home. Because what your parents were saying is, my image is more important than loving you. So if you don't maintain my image, I will hurt you. So it overpowered love. The same is true with resentments. If we let them take over, they will begin to overpower love. So I can have a hurt, be hurt by somebody else and be angry, but if I'm healthy, I will not ever use my anger in a way to hurt you. Love will win. I will be respectful. I will work my anger out in a loving way. But if I give into resentment, I want to hurt you, I don't care about love anymore. Then shame. If you think of being with an abusive person who's got lots of shame, what happens is if you ever expose in public their weakness or make them look bad, you're going to pay for it. Hiding shame is their highest priority. And so you can take comfort, ease, control. If those are your priority that overpowers love, you will end up being abusive. So if you get all kinds of those things, then you become even more likely to become abusive. So if anything trumps love and that thing becomes threatened, I become abusive. So that's the underlying forces. So part of why I want you to think about this in these terms is some people's response to people who are abusive is just stop doing it. As if that's supposed to make them just stop doing it. The reality is they can't stop doing it till they deal with their shame, until they get those other things that have trumped love to be under love. And that doesn't happen overnight. So dealing with abuse is not just quitting, it is dealing with deep, deep issues that go back a long way. And so for most people, dealing with those issues is a gradual, slow process, but it is absolutely essential. The next thing that I want you to realize is the more things that you have in your life that trump love, the more of a narcissist you are. Because what narcissism says is my needs, my priorities trump you every time. And so that is, again, the subject of these competing priorities and whether we rein them in or give them power, because as soon as we give them power over love, we become a narcissist who abuses. So those are two key underlying things as to why a person becomes an abuser.
Oh, wow. Absolutely imperative that we raise our kids in a very safe and validating, loving space where they feel safe and they feel heard. You know, that my parents hear me when I ask them. Let's have those conversations where we sit down and we talk. We're not screaming and yelling at our children, because we're going to raise adults who are absolutely like robots. They don't feel anything. They don't care about anything. They don't feel empathy. They just don't care, right? But anyway, yeah. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for watching my channel. And yeah, please like, share, and subscribe to other parents so that we all learn and raise amazingly mental healthy children. Sending you much love and light. Till we meet again. Bye-bye.